LinkedIn is pretty great at a lot of things, like helping you tap into the latest trends and insights in your field. We cannot stop your coworker from tapping her pencil. LinkedIn can help you find new jobs that align with your career goals. We cannot help you find the source of that weird smell in the office fridge. Ew. And while we can't stop your coworkers from bringing their hobbies into the office, LinkedIn can help you bring your career to the next level. LinkedIn is the network that works for you.
Refreshing wild cherry cola meets smooth cream. The treat you deserve. Pepsi Wild Cherry and Cream. Treat yourself.
Welcome back to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor, your one-stop shop when it comes to animation news and commentary. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and Mr. Taylor's, whose writings in the industry you can regularly read over on The Wrap, and whose musings on the Mission Impossible movies you can still listen to on Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast. He and I are recording this week's show on Sunday, March 22nd. And before we get started here, want to thank Drew and guest host Shannon Tyndall for filling in for me last week. I was, when I should have been recording the show, I was driving back from Vegas at the time when Drew and I normally record. I was actually out west to celebrate my daughter's 32nd birthday, and so Drew and Shannon were nice enough to fill in for me while I was away, and I've heard from a number of fine-tuning listeners that you and Mr. Tyndall, who, by the way, best known in animation circles for his work on Kubo and the Two Strings, Lost Ollie, and Ultraman Rising, evidently did a great week on last week's show. So thanks again for covering. You liked the way the show went?
Shannon and I are besties, so I always love talking to him about anything. And he has started a new routine where on Sunday nights he listens to Fine Tuning and cooks. So he is now part of his own ritual. So we love that. But Jim, you're gonna love it. We get into his haunted mansion. We get into a Lost Boys project that he worked on, and we talk a little bit about John Wick. And it was really fun. He was a great sport, and he is one of the great storytellers. So it was just a real pleasure. And he said he'll come back anytime, Jim. So next time he comes on, you got to grill him about stuff.
That's must listen to. If only. I mean, I remember when Dana Schneider was actually working on that Haunted Mansion show. He was. I want to say he was voicing Phineas Puck. But all right, that's actually the thing I'm listening in the car to tomorrow while I'm out running errands. So we'll check back in then.
All right. Well, we'll discuss it more on the next episode. We'll give it a rundown after you've listened.
Now, speaking of which, in regard to my trip out to LA, my very last day in town, which was Wednesday of this past week, I took the red eye home. I had to kill time because of this whole TSA thing they were talking about. The whole. Do you hear the drumbeat that whole week? The effect of you get the lines are going to be ridiculous. You have to be at the airport as early as possible. And in my case, Southwest wouldn't allow me to check my bag till 4 hours before the flight. So I had a 9:55 flight, so I was there at like 5:55. Checked my bag and walked around the corner. And true, after all of this, there were 6 people in front of me at TSA. I mean, just an entire day worth of stress.
Thank God you got there, Jim, before they're sending ICE to the airports tomorrow. So that I'm sure that'll really de-escalate things. Yeah.
All right, but that said, evidently LA has this new setup, and they were telling me you keep your shoes on, but they neglected to say, but you still need to take off your belt. And I set off the alarm, and the gentleman goes, well, I'm going to have to pat you down now. And it's like the belt, that you can literally see the image of the belt. It's up in the middle of my stomach. He proceeds to pat me down in the groin area so thoroughly. It was one of these things where the last time this sort of exam happened to me, it included the phrase, turn your head and cough. And it's like, I was looking at the image on the machine, and it's he's a foot away from wherever made the set the machine off. And it's like, can you at least buy me dinner and flowers? I mean, anyway.
Listen, he sent you on your way with a smile, Jim. So, that's all that matters.
There you go. But anyway, I had to kill time till I could, till it was 4 hours before the flight. So I decided there were two places that we mention quite consistently in the show. One of them, for example, is Stuart Ning's bookstore, which, by the way, just in the past couple of months or so, a brand new facility opened in Torrance. And earlier that morning, I took Alice there to get her, to let her wander around the shelves and pick out a book for her birthday. And she got a huge Art of Gorillas book. And, by the way, wanted to mention, Drew had actually talked this up earlier in the show, that Gorillas pop-up thing that's happening in L.A., House of Kong, her stepdad took her to that, and Alice had an absolutely amazing time. Just sang the praises of all the art that was on display there. Now, that opened on February 19th, and it closes this week, folks, on Thursday, March 26th to be exact. So if you're out in LA and if you have a chance, get on over to the House of Kong. It's 25 years worth of history related to this virtual band. And
did she tell you the twist of it, Jim? Or no?
You're chased through a part of the exhibit, aren't you?
Well, you kind of enter. The experience starts out and you're seeing art and seeing rough animatics and all this stuff, and then it kind of takes a turn and you actually enter into the world of gorillas, and you go backstage to their dressing room and all of these things. And I won't ruin anything, but it really is an amazing experience. I mean, it's put on by the guys that did Sleep No More in New York, and obviously, Jim, you and I both love a good exclusive merch situation, and there's a really great store that you get to rifle through at the end of the experience, and it's really a lovely. I was quite moved by it. I thought it was really an amazing kind of. They've been around for 25 years. It's insane, but yeah, definitely check it out before it goes. It's incredible. I loved it.
I'm kicking myself now because, I mean, this trip I got to do a number of things I've been meaning to do out in LA for a couple of years. I mean, the Academy Museum, for example, and again, to get to Stuart's new shop, where, by the way, I was able to finally get a copy of Where Is Dead Zero. Are you familiar with this anthology series that Walt Disney Animation Studios did? It started back in 2008 with Where Is Rocket Johnson?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are 4 books in the series. And just to explain, folks, these are books. It's an anthology series done by the artist and story folks who work at Disney. And it's nothing related to what the studio's working on. It's just passion projects of the individual artists and writers, right?
Yeah. And isn't it, they basically come up with a title.
Yep.
That's a prompt, and they kind of go from there, and each artist kind of adds to the story in their own way.
Yep.
And it's really amazing. And, it's just nice to see them kind of unchained from the corporate.
That's you've nailed it into one. That's the exact charm of the series. So there was Who is Rocket Johnson in 2008, which, by the way, I picked up at San Diego Comic-Con that year. They actually had a table and were doing a signing there. The next year is What is Torch Tiger? Then a couple of years went by and we got Where is Dead Zero? In fact, that's the book I was missing. Was able to pick this up at Stuart's this trip. And then finally, When is High Moon? And there was kind of a lag between the series. It was 2012, and they didn't do a new one until 2019. And but it's people like Paul Briggs, Jeff Rango, even John Musker and Ron Clements took part in the project. But I'm happy to have the 4 that are out there now, and just wish they would continue the series. Anyway, but at the same time, Because again, I'm killing time till I get the aggressive pat down from the TSA. I drive out to La Alhambra because Drew a number of times has moderated panels at Gallery Nucleus, and I wanted to see this place. And I was also hoping, to be honest, that I could get in a little bit early because they're doing a Knights of Guinevere gallery, an exhibit right now. And unfortunately, I got there 2 days too early because I guess it didn't open till Friday or Saturday. So didn't get to see that. By the way, that exhibit, folks, runs through April 5th. But I did get to see the... It's a wonderful little bookstore, kind of like Stewart's. Though what was so funny is
bookstore in the front and then a gallery in the back. Did you get to go upstairs at all to the other? Because there's actually 2 gallery spaces.
Yeah, and that was the other thing. Stewart, they were very polite about it because I guess the Al Hirschfeld exhibit had been up there just recently, and they were like, we're in the middle of changing out. I mean, it was the same thing. I was dealing with 2 gallery spaces that were being changed out. And so it's like, sorry, it's not open right now. But what was interesting, while I was at Gallery Nucleus, I saw it there sitting on a shelf, the copy of The Art of K-Pop Demon Hunters, which I had ordered a couple of months ago, and in fact was waiting for me when I got home. But there was one book that I saw that kind of fascinated me. It was an Art of Hansel and Gretel. And do you know anything about this, Drew? Or
no?
It was Kickstarter project from 2019, and Miguel Antelo. He's a Spanish dubbing guy. I mean, for example, he did Wicked for Universal. In fact, in addition to writing Herd on the Spanish dub of the film, he was the Spanish voice of Fierro for both the original Wicked and Wicked for Good. And by the way, he was also the Spanish voice of Olaf for all of Disney's Frozen films. And he evidently funded the creation of this art of book for Hansel and Gretel. But it's kind of the inversion. I mean, it looks just like, like one of the art of books that you have worked on in the past. But it's literally the pitch for the film that he put out in the world. It's been sitting out there, I guess, since 2022. But it looks like you drop it right alongside of for example, SpongeBob SquarePants: The Art of the Undersea World. That was Tracy Miller Zarnick's book that just came out this month. That was waiting for me at home. And there was also a copy of Laika, The Magic Behind a Stop-Motion Dream Factory, 2 decades of groundbreaking animation from Coraline to Wildwood. That's from Rizzoli Universe. And you wrote Herd on a panel about this book earlier this month, right?
Yeah, well, it was just yesterday, actually, Jim. It was outside in the sweltering heat, which was, not ideal. But it was a wonderful conversation. And it was the longest line this place had ever seen, and so we'll have to do it again sometime soon. But it was really, really wonderful. I just had a great time. It was the author, the photographer, and then one of the animators, the animation supervisor at Laika. So it was a great chat, great questions from the audience, and
Okay.
It was great.
We're going to talk a little bit more about this later on in today's show. But finally, is another part of Alice's birthday celebration. My daughter and I took her mom and her stepdad along, and we went and saw Pixar's Hoppers. And I wanted to stress that Mr. Taylor was correct. This is the funniest thing that that's come out of Emeryville in years. Genuinely charming, and Daniel Chong and the team did a really great job. If I have a complaint about this film, it's that I think it's the one you told me about going in, about the greatest sight gag that Pixar's ever done, where it's the chalkboard or the whiteboard filled with all of the projects, whether it's the rig that makes Doug talk, or it's socks from Pixar's Lightyear. The professor, what she's going to be working on next is the tech for virtually every Pixar film that's ever been made.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think Mo is in there from WALL-E. I think that it's a very extensive collection of sight gags. Yes, absolutely.
And I think when you and I did Drew and I, whenever we can, we have dinner together at Bob's Big Boy in Toluca Lake. You were pointing out that you knew about this because you were lucky enough to say Hoppers completely twice before it opened.
Yes. I was clocking it each time for sure,
okay.
Jim.
Okay.
Yeah.
It made me just think prior to doing today's show, I should have cracked my copy of Art of Pixar to see if it's in there. But anyway, speaking of Hoppers, this past weekend's box office, Project Hail Mary, directed by Phil Lord and Chris Miller of Lego Movie and Spider-Verse fame, number one at the box office. I want to say, what is it, over 80 million domestic, and if we factor in what it did overseas, it's 140 plus. Best year-to-date opening for a film worldwide. Does that sound right to you? Or
yep, and it's the highest for Amazon MGM Studios. Mm-hmm. It is, it's an original movie. It's, not based on a IP. It's based on a novel, but this is, the first film version. Mm-hmm. And it was trending upward, so it's proof that it had a really great word of mouth. So you got to see it, Jim, on cheap night. Go see it.
No, well, what's weird is, I have a friend who actually saw it like 6 months ago at a test screening in Mexico City and absolutely blithered about it, said it was amazing. And it's definitely on the list of things to go see, though. It kind of interesting. Again, you mentioned it was a novel, and it was Ryan Gosling actually bought the rights to the novel himself, supposedly brought it to Amy Pascal, and she in turn then roped in Lord and Miller to direct it. And I gotta say, this makes me wonder about, remember back in June of 2017, after, Lord and Miller, after working for 4.5 months on Solo, got fired off of that film. And given what everybody is saying now about Project Hail Mary, that intrigue you at all to now see, what their take of Solo might have been?
Well, I was always pro Lord and Miller's version of Solo. So, I'm just happy that they took what they learned from Solo and took a lot of the same collaborators that they used on Solo. Many of the department heads, people like Neil Scanlon, who ended up designing and puppeteering Rocky, the alien in the movie. And applying it to something that is like totally their own. They didn't have anybody, kind of noting them to death or asking about tone or anything. So I think this is actually like the best possible outcome is they used all they learned from Solo. They put it into a movie that is even bigger and better and more spectacular and has more heart. And they don't have to worry about selling toys and offending shareholders. It's great. It's the best. So, yeah. I think it all worked out, Jim, is what I'm saying.
Okay. Again, this is why I do this podcast with Drew. You get the unvarnished truth. All right. Anyway, back now to Hoppers, starting its third weekend in theaters, 18 million domestic, and that, by the way, that means it's at 120 million in ticket sales in North America to date, an additional 122 million overseas. So, 422 million worldwide, nearly $250 million, and again makes me happy. see. I mean, I have to admit I'm a little concerned about what happens come, April 1st with the Super Mario Brothers Galaxy movie coming. But at the same time, not everything can be a Zootopia 2. That's still 1,866,000,000 worldwide, 34 million away from 1.9 billion, and over the past week to 10 days, we've been hearing some rather persistent rumors about something at DC. Are we allowed to talk about this yet, or are you still working on this story?
I mean, I think that Jim Schul has already blown my whole story, so we can,
Okay.
we can talk about whatever you want. But yeah, we're hearing that maybe Avatar is not going into DCA. Maybe it is in fact the Zootopia ride from Shanghai, and we've been hearing this on a number of different fronts, and it makes sense to us, but.
It does.
What else do you want to say, Jim?
Well, I mean, just that again, not confirmed, but definitely bubbling up from within the company. And by the way, speaking of animated based shows at the Disneyland Resort in Anaheim, this past weekend, Bluey's Best Day Ever opened at the Fantasyland Theater. In fact, while Mr. Schill and I were in the park earlier this week, doing a walk and talk, we saw them rehearsing this live show, and looks cute. It seems to be very much a show followed by an interactive experience, and it'll just be interesting to see how.
Well, the interactive experience has already been cut, Jim, because of the amount of people that are at the show. I was looking at the crowds today. There was literally a line that went through Fantasyland waiting for the show.
Okay.
So they cut the interactive part. It's just the shows now until they can kind of get things down to a manageable size. But who would have known, Jim, that an international phenomenon would bring in lots of people? Wow, what a surprise.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Okay, well, anyway, we'll have more animation-related news in a sec, folks. But first, there's this.
Zootopia 2 has come home to Disney+.
Let's go!
Get ready for a new case.
We're the greatest partners of all time!
New friends.
Gary the Snake.
And your last name?
The Snake.
Dream Team. New habitats.
Zootopia has a secret reptile population.
You can watch the record-breaking phenomenon at home. Zootopia 2, now available on Disney+, rated PG. And right now you can get Disney Plus and Hulu for just $4.99 a month for 3 months with a special limited time offer. Ends March 24th. After 3 months, plan auto renews at $12.99 a month. Terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
And we're back. Almost forgot, folks. Genuinely kind of embarrassed about this, because when I arrived in LA about 10 days ago, it was just ahead of the Academy Awards. In fact, MapQuest, by the time I got my rental car, it was the start of rush hour for LA. So they sent me overland to my hotel, which was over by Universal. So I wound up driving up Highland and actually past that giant thing that they build at the corner of Hollywood, so they can shoot the red carpet. And speaking of which, did you see that woman on social media who found the dumpster where the red carpet got thrown immediately after? I mean, to say we're tearing down this giant complex, and she went out and
no. What did she do? She just said, "This is it." She didn't take a little swath home for.
She actually walked away, found a box cutter, came back and took a chunk of it, and was showing it in her home. But she just got clued into. Yeah, there's a dumpster out behind the building. It's already in there. Go take a look. So All right. Anyway, speaking of the Academy Awards, we should probably talk about, what happened on the animation side of things. And to the absolute surprise of no one who's been paying attention for the last 9 months, K-Pop Demon Hunters. In fact, you wanted to point out something significant, that it had actually taken home 2 awards, which only Disney and Pixar typically do, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's only been one other. I think maybe Prince of Egypt was nominated for Best Song.
Oh.
So I mean, anyway, it's a very short list because Prince of Egypt happened before the Best Animated Feature category. So anyway. Mm-hmm. This is the first time a non-Disney, non-Pixar movie has taken home 2 Oscars. Mm-hmm. So it took home Best Song for Golden and great performance during the awards too, obviously. And then it took home Best Animated Feature. So that was actually another record-breaking thing that it did. So hats off to Maggie and Chris and the whole gang. And yeah.
Okay,
I'm so proud.
Yeah, again, it's been a fascinating run, and we did get officially confirmed the sequel, right? I mean, that is okay.
They put out a press release, although it was like everybody already knew that what it was going to, anyway. But
okay.
Maggie and Chris are back. It's going to be, it's going to be great, I'm sure.
Okay. And were we relatively happy with the award ceremony in and of itself?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought Conan was great. I thought, I love, One Battle After Another and Sinners, so I was so happy they kind of shared the wealth. I thought that was great. And it was a really fun ceremony. I loved the Sinners musical number. I thought the In Memoriam was just gutting. I mean, that was just like, oh my God. I don't know if you got to see that, Jim, but holy.
I've heard about the Rob Reiner stuff, and it just, to be honest, it's, kind of putting that off for a while. It was already depressing enough without seeing, evidently, all of his friends and contemporaries step forward. So
yeah, it was very moving. It was, and Barbara Streisand singing about Robert Redford. I mean, it was a lot, but I thought it was a great ceremony, super fun, and check it out.
Now, again, 98th Academy Awards, one of the last on ABC before this transitions to YouTube. And
Thank God. It was such a nightmare, Jim, to try to figure out how to watch it again, because it was not. If you had the combined app, which is all Disney pushes, is this combined app, you had to watch it on the Hulu app only or something. I mean, I ended up signing up for a trial of YouTube TV just to get it on. So, but anyway, I cannot wait for it to go to YouTube, Jim, because this was an absolute nightmare. So, yeah.
Have they, I realize we are at least 2 and 3 years out at this point. Has there been any discussion of, face it, the Academy Awards is something that advertisers like the Super Bowl, like to buy commercial time on. And, how does that work over at YouTube?
I don't know. It won't start until 2029, I believe. So we have a couple of years to figure it out. Okay. I imagine that it'll be there will be commercials for the non-YouTube premium members, and then the premium members won't have commercials. But no matter how you watch the Super Bowl on Peacock, no matter what tier you have, you still get the commercials. So maybe it'll be something like that where we just all suffer through. But at least we won't have to have the abject, synergistic, hammering that went on during the Oscars. I don't know if you heard about this, Jim, but, Baby Grogu was in the audience, and every commercial was for the cruise line, and it was just like, oh, boy, we get it. Get it. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, speaking of painful, gratuitous commercials, we didn't do ours at the top of the show. So give me a second here. I want to mention that our sponsor is actually Unlock Magic, the go-to place for some of the best deals in theme park tickets. And if Disney or Universal trip is anywhere on your radar in 2026, Unlock Magic helps you lock in great ticket prices without the stress, and all handled by people who really know the parks and know how to save you money. So if you're starting to think, okay, this is the year we finally go, head on over to unlockmagic.com to grab the best ticket deals and to make that future trip just a little bit more magical. And all right, that's no Grogu in the audience, but all right, it's done. Now, speaking of movies, there was a Firefly movie, Serenity, that went out into theaters in September 2005, and that came on the heels of the Firefly TV series, which ran on Fox from, September of 2002 through December that same year, 14 episodes. And so now we're getting an animated series, which, if I'm working the math, is likely to debut in 2027, some 25 years after the show went off the air. How do we feel about this, Drew?
I mean, I'm excited. It's nice to have one resurrected Joss Whedon-related project move forward after the demise of Buffy this week. Also,
wow,
but
that got ugly.
Yeah, I mean,
that got ugly.
I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be really great. I mean, the entire voice cast is back. We should say that. And I believe, is it Titmouse that's doing the animation? Who's doing the animation on the Firefly show?
I want to say yes, and in fact, I say this as a longtime fan of Alan Tudyk's work.
It's Shadow Machine, Jim.
There we go,
even
Shadow
better.
Machine.
Well, not even better, just as good. Let's say just as good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, face it, his character, and I'm not spoiling anything because Serenity, again, has been out there for more than 2 decades at this point. And, his character actually gets taken out in Serenity. But supposedly this series is going to be set between the actual TV show and the Serenity movie. So Alan Tudyk is back, folks. Loved his character in the show.
If you want some extra Alan Tudyk, Nathan Fillion fun, Jim, they both went on the new podcast from Brent Spiner and Jonathan Frakes called Dropping Names, which is absolutely a delight. And so it's 4 famous spaceship employees in one room, and it is so delightful. It's so funny. I have to just recommend that for you, Jim, for your next long car ride.
Okay.
Really, really great. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, first I'll listen to you and Shannon, and then I'll circle around to that one. Now, speaking of TV series ending up in movie theaters, Stranger Things, Tale of 1985, which is... All right, it's debuting on Netflix on the 23rd, but a couple of days before that, we're getting the first 2 episodes out in theaters. Is that correct?
That is correct. I saw they were CQing it earlier this week. I may or may not have seen these 2 episodes, Jim, and I may or may not recommend seeing it in a theater for the full impact. But really beautiful animation from Flying Bark, and really does put you in the same kind of world. It's nice to be back. They're all kids again. It's like the Saturday morning vibes are there. This is all purely hypothetical, of course, Jim. But it's super exciting. I love that they're doing this. It's so fun.
Okay, and speaking of more television headed to theaters, I mean, face it, the Shaun the Sheep TV series, I mean, this is a character that was originally introduced 1995 with the Wallace and Gromit featurette, A Closer Shave, and he got his own series in March of 2007, and since then we've had 2 feature-length animated. We had the Shaun the Sheep movie from 2015, and then Shaun the Sheep Farmageddon in 2019. And in between there, we also got holiday specials, The Farmer's Llamas in 2015, and The Flight Before Christmas in 2021. But this now is the 3rd. But the first to be set in Halloween, right?
Did you watch the trailer?
I did.
It looks so good.
It does.
I love these movies. They were both speaking of Oscars, they were both nominated for the Best Animated Feature Oscar. So, these are not low pro, and I love that G Kids is putting it out here. I think that's a great fit, and I am so excited. It looks fantastic.
It does look great. Though, speaking of characters from film. Darth Maul is getting his own series over on Disney Plus, Maul Shadow Lords. That debuts on April 6th, and earlier on in today's show, we were talking about Solo, a Star Wars story, and at least in the Ron Howard version of that, we had Maul revealed in like the last 5-10 minutes of that movie is the one who was sort of pulling the strings the entire time. And again, this is another thing that makes me really want to see, the Lord and Miller version to see whether or not that was in the mix as well as a story element. But again, it really was a more comical take on the material. I mean, that's what was said back in 2017, right?
Yeah, I mean, who knows what actually happened there? But yeah, I don't have any insight. But I'm just happy that they're back, and I hope that you go see this movie, Jim. Cheap night or not, just get out there.
We'll do. We'll do. Okay, and believe it or not, more folks, even more animation-related news in a moment. But first, another ad.
Instagram teen accounts have automatic protections for what teens see and who can contact them, plus time management tools. And Instagram will continue adding built-in safety features to help create age-appropriate experiences. Learn more about teen accounts and Instagram's ongoing work to protect teens online at instagram.com/teen accounts.
This episode is brought to you by Alexa Plus. Say hello to Alexa Plus and see how Alexa can do more for you. Need tickets to that last-minute show? Craving your favorite restaurant? Sit back, relax, and talk naturally. Alexa's on it. Alexa learns your preferences to create a personalized experience. And now, Alexa Plus is free with Prime on your Amazon devices, like Echo and Fire TV. Learn more at amazon.com/Alexa Plus.
And we're back. And again, folks, very grateful for Drew for filling in for me last week so I could get some time with my daughter. And you mentioned, at the top of the show, that you moderated the panel for the new Leica book from Rizzoli, and is this the 20th or the 25th anniversary they're celebrating?
I think it's the 20. Oh, that's a good question. I think, let's see. I think it's 20th, but let me look.
Okay.
But yeah, I think there's going to be a new collection of stuff on the official shop. Yeah, I think it's the 20th. Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, what an accomplishment in those 20 years. I mean, good Lord.
Okay, now I have to ask, given, face it, they have made so many wonderful movies there, whether, Coraline or Paranorman or Kubo and the Two Strings, and at the event, what were people, was there a particular film that, folks were mostly asking questions about, or was there?
Well, there were a lot of young people there, Jim, and so they were sort of asking what is the best path to get to Leica, basically. So, what internship, what makes you look good for an internship? What schools should you go to?
Wow.
Stuff like that. But so that was actually the majority of the questions were about that. And then, Brad had an actual figure of Prue from Wildwood there, which was pretty amazing. I actually got to hold her, which was, it's surreal. I mean, like you see these characters, you want to touch them so bad in every movie. And I actually got to do that. So I feel very #blessed to have been able to do that. And yeah.
All right. Now, I have to tell this story because when Nick Park was making the rounds to promote A Curse of the Were-Rabbit, Nancy and I actually drove down to Boston to do a one-on-one interview with him. And he had there on the table, he had a Wallace and he had a Grommet. And Nancy at one point, just was, and we'd had previous interactions with him. In fact, I remember at a Visual Effects Society, one of the symposiums, I was lucky enough to be standing next to Nick Park and Ray Harryhausen.
Wow!
And so you have these two giants of stop motion together, and Ray is marveling, and he's got the Wallace in his hands. It's like, and it was suddenly two guys who work in this field talking practically. It's like, where'd you get the eyes? It's we make them ourselves. And he said, back in the day when we did this, we harvested them out of dolls. They would go to the store and look for dolls, and it's like, okay, that could fit in the Guanji. So we're in this little conference room in Boston, and Nancy's like, oh, they're so lovely. Can I handle them? And Nick is like, no, you can't. No, just literally flat out shuts Nancy down. And then you may recall what happened next, Drew, that about a day or so later, there was a story in the paper about Nick Park is down now in New York doing interviews, and he leaves Wallace and Gromit in a cab.
Yes, I remember that. Yes.
And so Nancy was like, fine, let me touch them. They disappear into the... Now, mind you, happy ending of the story. Somebody finds them and brings them back. But again, Nick Park shuts Nancy down. Nancy, of all people. But I speaking of Laika, we're now finally allowed to talk about this thing you've been working on for months now, right?
I think so, because I sent you the cover art, so it's out there. It's out there. Yeah.
Okay, so Drew has been working on the Art of Wildwood book, which, by the way, also coming out from Rizzoli, October of this year, 2026, 176 pictures, and just the cover, the shot of the general, flying over that deep green forest makes me want to buy this book.
I will say you should all save your pennies, because there is a deluxe version that's coming out that is absolutely astounding. I don't know how much I can say about it, but it is it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I've never seen anything like this deluxe version. Anyway,
okay.
Yes, I have been working on this. It is coming out in the fall. I think that's all I can say, but I'm just so excited about it because I love the movie. I love Laika, and you got some great insights from the character designers and from Travis and from everybody that really worked on the movie. It's just a very special project, and I cannot be more excited about it. I might actually be working on another thing maybe in the Wildwood world that I will update you as soon as I can. But
cool.
This movie is just astounding, and everybody should be very, very excited. But yeah, I think that's all I can say now. But I think you can pre-order it, right, Jim? Is that something you can do?
That's interesting. I will go check on that.
Okay.
And if I can, I will.
Okay.
But and I don't mean to be a pain in the ass about this, but we know the book is coming out in October of 2026. Do we have a date on the actual film yet? Or
October 23rd, I think, is what the release date is.
Oh my God! Actual news! Holy cow!
Yeah.
Oh, that's great! That's great!
Yeah, October 23rd, 2026. It'll be distributed by Fathom Entertainment, and obviously based on the book series of the same name. And I just cannot wait for this thing to be out. I mean, they've been working on this thing for 6 years, and it's finally coming out. I mean, can you imagine? Well, everyone is so excited.
As they should be. I mean, just from that one featurette about the general. I mean, holy cow!
I know. I was kind of saying, listen, I can write an entire book about this bird.
Okay. All right. And speaking of, to be honest, it's nice to be able to share good news in regard to animation. And also folks that Drew has helped create books with. And Matt Braley, of course, the creator of Amphibia, and he and Drew collaborated on that wonderful Art of Amphibia book, came out last year. But Matt has a new project, Clara and the Below, which is an animated gothic horror spin on the Nutcracker. And he started a Kickstarter for this project, right? With a goal of...
He started it went live on the 17th and completely blew past every signpost that he was hoping for. I mean, unbelievable, Jim. You've seen what has happened with this Kickstarter.
Absolutely. I mean, I love the fact that he had initially started with a $25,000 goal, and he made that in 15 minutes. I mean, which tells you a lot about how the animation fan community feels about Matt. And as of right now, which, by the way, 22, as of the day this podcast posts, folks, Tuesday the 24th, 22 days to go. But they had over 3,000 backers. What? Over $250,000.
I texted him today, Jim, and said, if you reach 300K, I get to be a background rat, the voice of a background rat. So just let's get there, Jim, because I need to make my voice talent dreams become a reality.
Folks, we got to make this happen. I want to hear Drew is a rat. And I have to admit, I love that this is happening now. For example, what just happened with the Riff Tracks guys. I mean, it was the same thing. They were kind of looking to, I want to say, raise $20,000 to help start. They're the ones who were doing the 4 new episodes of Mystery Science Theater 3000. And I want to say when that Kickstarter shut down, they were at 2.7 million. So I am really hoping for Matt that we see something like that.
Yeah. And I've heard there are other animators who are looking to do something similar, but if you want to read the story of how this all came to be, including a lot of details about his failed Sony movie and where this idea came from, I wrote extensively a huge story on the Wrap about this. That I really think you should check out.
Well, I mean, absolutely, folks. Please head on over to the Wrap to check that out. But the irony of this sort of thing happening, that people who love, a certain form of media or entertainment, making that love apparent by putting their money where their mouth is, at the same time, this is the week where we learned that CBS Radio, 100 plus years is going away. I mean, it's such a strange time in the media. But I guess we shouldn't talk about the negative. We should talk about the positive, which again, remember, Knights of Guinevere, that Dana Terrace is doing. And in fact, we just learned last month has been greenlit for an entire season of that series. And just want to remind folks, if I missed out, but you can still see it. The show at Gallery Nucleus, which features all sorts of art and stuff that's inspired by Knights of Guinevere, that continues to run in La Alhambra at Gallery Nucleus through April 15th. And
did you get Dana's book, Jim?
I ordered it, again, I'm waiting, again, I wanted to support it. So, sprang for a copy of that as well. So,
it's really special that her book,
okay.
It's called Skin and Bones, and I think everybody should pick it up.
Yeah. All right. Will do. All right. Well, anyway, folks, and as Drew mentioned, he's got his amazing story over there on the Wrap about Matt Braley's, brand new project, Clara and the Below. And the first, I saw the sort of, by the way, Matt in his video with his little red outfit with the epaulets, that was killer. That's worth, chasing down in and of itself.
He was sending me pictures when he was filming that, and I was like, this is so good. and it really was good. So yeah, check that out. Exactly.
Okay. But again, this is just just the tip of the iceberg in regard to the good stuff that Mr. Taylor is regularly turning out on the wrap. And by the way, again, if you love these sorts of behind-the-scenes stories, you need to check out Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast. And Drew did, well, nearly 300 episodes of that with his co-host, Charles Hood. And every one of them features those sorts of great behind-the-scenes stories. And we have some decent stories we share here at Jim Hill Media. You'll hear them on some of the other podcasts we do here. Disney Dish with Len Testa, the Epic Universal podcast that I do with Eric Hersey. Likewise, I Want That Too, our Disney merch podcast that I do with Eric's lovely bride, Lauren. Also, we've got a new Disney Unpacked coming up. That's our Patreon project, and this is a walkthrough of Disney's Hollywood Studios that I do with veteran Imagineer Jim Schul and Len Testa. And also for Patreon, we've got shows coming up about the Disney theme park icons, Cinderella Castle and Spaceship Earth. Likewise, a history of a small world, which, by the way, will be celebrating the 60th anniversary of its opening at Disneyland Park in the month of May. And as we run for the curtain here, I want to thank Eric Hersey and David Gray for the great job they do when it comes to editing and producing this podcast. Also, I have a quick favor to ask. If you could please head over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review this show, as well as show some love to Light the Fuse. And as we close up here, Drew, again, you moderated the Leica book thing. Anything coming up that people need to be aware of that can maybe get out and see you talk?
Not immediately, but we will be back. We've got a lot of great animation stuff to cover here, Jim. That's for sure.
Yeah, crazy couple of months coming. All right, but but social media wise, can they keep track of you just in case one of these things comes up quick?
Sure, it's Drew Tailored, like a tailored shirt on Instagram and X. And Jim, where can people find you?
I'm on X and Instagram as Jim Hill Media, and then over on Facebook as Jim Hill Media News. And that's gonna do it for now, folks. Thanks again for listening. Also, thanks to Drew and Shannon for covering for me so I could go out and enjoy Alice's birthday with her. But really appreciate that. And beyond that, we'll be back with a brand new fine tuning soon. So till then, take care.